Okay, so even though we're a small crowd, nonetheless, we're still going to get started, and I'm still hoping to give you guys a high value presentation. So I believe everyone here I'm not sure about Jennifer and Ksenia, which I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name, if you've been to other ones, but just want to reiterate that, guys, especially since we're like a small group, kind of see this as like family, as friends, you know, if you guys have any questions, like at any time, feel free to jump in, ask a question, say, I didn't understand that. If there's anything that has worked for you guys in the past, like feel free to share. Like I always love learning from other people about tips and insights that have worked. So please feel free to jump in and say, hey, I have something else that has worked for me that you haven't mentioned. So without further ado, we can go ahead and get started. Although I do want to just introduce myself real quick, just for the few folks that may or may not have been in here already. My name is Yoel, or Yoel, whichever one you feel more comfortable pronouncing. I'm from the US, been here for 1.5 years in Israel. And my background is in a handful of things: business development, video marketing, event production, and career coaching. I worked with Masa on some of their career programs. And today's workshop is going to be on job market research. So let's get started. And of course, like all the other presentations, you can receive this presentation at the end. And I also have at the end, I have reminders in here, but at the end, I also have like a big list of like job search tools and resources and sites that I can send you guys. It's a big boy. It's like a few pages worth of resources. So remind me at the end or send me an email and I can happy to send that to you guys, but I'll have reminders throughout the presentation. So today's topics are the following: clarity of research goals, what to know about your industry, general research tips, finding and researching job opportunities, and organizing research findings. All right? So the first thing that is super important when it comes to research is having clarity on what it is that you are actually researching. I'm going to read these questions and then I'm going to elaborate on the questions. So before you even start researching, you should ask yourself, what am I really looking for? What do I want to achieve in my research? What does a successful research job look like? What is the ideal position I want? What does a best case scenario job look like for me? What would be my ideal responsibilities? What would be my ideal industry type of organization? And so these questions are meant to kind of answer twofold. Number one, the whole presentation is geared toward two things. One thing would be researching for job opportunities. And the other thing, it's also geared for general job market research, just knowing more about your professional field. Okay? The other thing that I want to mention is that if you're in the boat where you are not exactly sure what it is that you want to research or what kind of profession you want to have, this presentation is going to be more so geared towards people who have a good idea of the type of work and the type of profession that they're after. If you're not sure of the type of work that you're after, that's totally fine, but that's a different research process. That research process is going to be more about personal and professional discovery. And so if you have questions about the research that deals with personal and professional discovery, I'm happy to share tips and insights about that, because many of us have been there before, including myself. But this one's going to be geared towards those who have a good idea of what it is that they're going for. So here, what I'm asking, and what am I really looking for? What do I want to achieve? What is my ideal position? What I would suggest doing is when you answer, for example, the question of what is my ideal position, I wouldn't just answer what is the title that I'm looking after. I would answer, what does the job entail? What does the job description look like of my ideal position? And then once you've listed out the ideal job description, from there you can give it a title. And from there you can decide what the market title of that job description can be. Okay, but if you're just saying I want to go after a data analyst position, but you don't really know what kind of responsibilities you want, you might be aiming for something that you don't actually want. Now, the other reason why clarity is so important is because as you guys have experienced, when you actually go out there into the world of research and on the internet, there is so much going on that you can get pulled in different directions if you don't have clarity on what it is that you want. Think of clarity like your anchor. Clarity is your anchor, and clarity is going to be able to give you that laser focus on going after the exact type of position that you want. If you are unclear as to what it is that you're going for, and you're kind of letting the research decide what it is that you're after, you might get pulled in a bunch of different directions. The other thing I want to note about clarity is when you're saying, what is my ideal position, you're basically saying, what does my dream job look like? And the reason you need to answer that is because you want to understand, what does 100% look like? And although many of the positions you might find might not be 100% of what your ideal position is, at least now you've given yourself a metric. And at least now when you're looking for positions and you find different positions and different opportunities, you have something to measure it against. So then that way you know what is going to be the best job fit for you. So you can compare it to something. Questions about clarity? So I guess it was clear. All right. And so the next piece that is important to know is what to know. So I'm just going to go over the things to know about your industry, and then once again I'll elaborate a little bit more. So here are the few things you should know. What are the required skills and experience needed for the position or dream job you are looking for? What is the CV format of your industry? What is the range of possible opportunities and positions that are available for your field? And another way to view this is, what fields or types of organizations use my profession? What is the typical salary range of the position you are looking for? Or even more, what is the salary range of your industry? And if you want to go even a step further, list out all the different positions that are within your field, and what is the salary range of the different positions within your field? What is trending in your industry? What are the hot topics in your industry? And what are the synonyms or various terms for my profession? In other words, one position or one type of role could have 5 or 6 different names. And so if you know what the different names of that role are, then it's going to help you on your research, because then you're going to be able to research a few 4, 5, 6 different types of names for the same type of role, and it might give you different results. So it's good to understand all the different ways that your type of position that you're looking for could be called. Okay? And the way that you go about answering these questions is, it's really just 2 ways. The internet, and I'm going to later give you on different sources and sites that you guys can use. But the other really big one is your network. A lot of these answers you can find through asking people who you know that are in your field. And if you don't know anybody that's in your field, then you can ask around to see if you have anyone who can connect you with someone who's in your field. And Michelle, do you have a question?
Yeah. What do you mean by CV format of the industry? I mean, what can be different between each industry?
Good question.
If you can please give an example of that.
Sure. So for example, there might be, and this is a more drastic example, but if you're in graphic design might have 3 or 4 different pages, right? Or maybe there are certain industries, the majority of industries will require 1 page. But I've seen sometimes in law, for example, you can have up to 2 pages just because of their format. There could be a format where it's more traditional, where it's just like black and white. Or, you know, maybe if you're going for marketing, your CV should actually be a lot more colorful and should like kind of pop more because you want to show off your marketing skills. But a business development position doesn't want to see all that color, and it might actually be negative. And so the format could be basically the same, like the sections could be the same, but the style of the format could be different. And so the best way to know is to try and get your hands on a CV that is within your field. If you know somebody, if you have a personal connection with someone that works in your field, ask them if you can review the CV. Ask around in your network to see if anyone is open to sharing what that format looks like, or if you're able to do an internet search to see what that CV format looks like. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect. And so those are really the key pieces that we should all look into when we're doing our research. And like I mentioned, for me, for example, when I research, and this is maybe more of a personal thing, but 50% of my research is like through the internet, through, you know, videos, reading, audio, that kind of thing. And then 50% of my research on anything also has to do with people. Like I reach out to people, I network, and I ask them all of these different kinds of questions. So those would be the two different formats that I would use. And if you aren't familiar with networking and how to reach out to people, then reach out to me at the end of this, and I have a document that literally details out how you can reach out to people in your personal network, how you can reach out to people outside of your personal network. I give you the messaging you can use, the follow-up, so you can get help with networking. Is there any questions about this? Or maybe do you guys think that there is a piece of knowing about your industry that may have been missed?
How do we understand better the difference between the industry in our home countries and in Israel as we're doing the research? Because I can't, for example, can't really do this research in Hebrew. Mm-hmm. So I'm still looking it up in English, and most of the information I tend to find is for America.
Okay, but so the type of research that you're doing, Jonathan, is more geared towards finding a job opportunity, or it's more for general research about the field?
In my case, I guess it would be more for the job opportunity because I already have the degree in the field, so I would like to use it sooner than later.
Gotcha. So then I would say that it would probably be geared towards the actual sites themselves. Like there's just more sites, you know, like if you're using a site like Indeed, you know, that's like a more universal site, a more international site. And so there could be job opportunities kind of all over the place there. But if you're using sites that are specific for Israel or even specific for Tel Aviv or for Jerusalem, then they're going to just filter everything out for you, and it's only going to be for that field. And I'll talk about like those sites, but and I'm going to talk about actually that piece in a bit. But the idea is that you need to understand the platforms that you're using, and before you even research, the platforms that you choose to research on are a huge piece of your research, because if you're using the wrong platforms and you're looking through the wrong groups, you could be wasting valuable time. So the platforms you choose to use for your research is a huge component, is like the biggest piece. And I'm going to get into that in a moment. Does that help though? Awesome. Good question. Okay. So right now I just want to give you guys some general researching tips. The first one is, if you're going to be looking for a few different kinds of positions, and that happens a lot. It's one thing I should have mentioned in clarity is you could be, you don't need to, you don't need to be clear on just like, you don't need to choose one role. Is if you're going to go after 3 or even 4 roles, that's fine. But you just need to be clear on what you're looking after in each of those roles, and be clear on the type of roles that you're actually going after. And then let's say that you're going after 2 or 3 different kinds of positions. This is something that I would suggest. Of course, you kind of have to find what's best for you, but one thing that would help, I think, most people is to find focused time slots for each type of role that you're looking after. Let's say you're looking into a data analyst position and a marketing position. So what I would do is I would dedicate a couple days, maybe a couple hours each of those days, and only focus on data analyst. And then the following 2 days, schedule a couple more hours on each of those days, and then only focus on marketing analyst. Because when you kind of have this tunnel vision about the type of role that you're going for, you become a lot more efficient and a lot more focused. And you're able to be a lot more productive in your research if you have this kind of laser vision, tunnel vision. So that has been very helpful for me, and that's what I would suggest to others, especially if you can get distracted easily and get pulled in different directions easily. Of course, if you're looking for data analyst roles and marketing analyst roles kind of come up in the feed, you know, you can make note of those and kind of list them and put them on the side. I'm going to get into how to organize your research in a moment, but you can of course put them on the side and then get back to them. It's not to ignore them, but it's just to keep that focus. Now, this is the part that I was mentioning just now. The next general tip would be to ask yourself, which platforms can I use to research my field? What are the resources that are going to give me the best results? So this goes for jobs and general research. Ask your networks for sites, blogs, groups, pages, social media, WhatsApps. There are typically specific ones for each professional sector. And for jobs, the more filtered your search, the more effective you will be. So to give you an example, if you're going after an architecture job, there are literally going to be Facebook groups that are only for architecture. There are going to be WhatsApps that are only for posting jobs for architecture. And so, and there are going to be groups and WhatsApps that are for architecture only and only in Israel. And then there's even groups that might be architecture only in Israel, only in Tel Aviv. And so when you're able to filter the platform, you're going to get a lot cleaner results. And when you get those cleaner results, your research is going to be so much more efficient, and you're going to get so many, the quality of your results is going to really improve. Versus if you're looking for architecture on, you know, secret Tel Aviv jobs, which is great. I have it listed as a source. It's great, especially if you're looking for, you know, various fields. But if you're looking for architecture on secret Tel Aviv, it's going to be a lot more difficult to find a job because there's going to be so many different jobs. You're going to have to browse up and down and do the search link. So you guys have to figure out what are the groups within my professional field? What are the pages specific to my professional field? And a couple ways to go about figuring out what those are is as listed here. Ask your networks, ask your friends, ask people you know, ask people you know that work in that field. What are the groups that I should be on that are going to give me the best results? And if you don't have those types of friends or connections, then hop onto one of the bigger job searching groups like Secret Tel Aviv or some of the other job pages that I'm going to give you in a second, and ask those pages. Hey guys, I'm looking for an architecture job. Does anyone have any recommendations for groups, blogs, sites, etc., that will give me only architecture positions in Tel Aviv? And you could even post, there are 20 plus different Facebook groups for general jobs in Israel, for example. You could post the same post in each of those sites every day or every other day. And then you're going to have, there's different people in those groups and in those pages. So they're going to give you different, each person or each group, it might give you different information. Then you can collect that data. And then from there, you can start hopping onto the right platforms that are going to give you those results. So you kind of start wide, use your resources, and then you kind of get narrowed down for that. And then the last thing, this is another one that has been very helpful for me. This one's also kind of preference, but I would really recommend it because I think every human being, if they're given a goal, there's like, it's a natural hack to your psychology that you want to kind of achieve that goal versus just kind of going with the flow, which is give yourself a goal. For example, I want to find 30 opportunities or organizations within X amount of time. And if you give yourself that goal, what you've created is you've created personal accountability. So if I've given myself, I want to hit 30 opportunities in the next 72 hours, then it gives me that extra focus. It gives me that extra push that, okay, this is my goal. This is what I want to hit. And then you'll see that you'll naturally speed up your research. You'll naturally be more focused because you've given yourself that goal versus just being online and just kind of seeing what pops up. So giving yourself a goal is another good research that I would recommend. Are there any questions about this page?
I want to add something, if I can.
Of course.
Are you going to talk also about networking events?
You mean like in general, like to go to networking events for research?
Exactly. Are you going to mention this?
No, that's a, do you want to share more about it? That's a good way to do it.
Yes, I can tell about myself that I have been to a lot of networking events, and you know, some of them are quite boring and it looks like you are wasting your time. But once you do it over and over again, you expand your network, you get to know more people, you get to know a lot of sites or blogs or stuff like that that you didn't know before. And sometimes it takes time and it doesn't happen immediately once you have gone to these events. But I can tell you that it pays off after a while.
Eran, that is a fantastic insight. Thank you for sharing that. That networking events are another really good way to do research, most definitely. And the other benefit about networking events is that not only can you learn more about your field and to learn more about opportunities, and that they can also help you in your research, but you can create connections while you're also doing that research. So networking events, I think, is a phenomenal insight, which I will definitely going to be adding to this presentation. So thank you for that. Yeah. Anything
I
else?
also want to say, if it's possible, that the networking trend in Israel is increasing. I mean, you can see more and more networking events in comparison to the past. So it's something that can be a real benefit. Plus, I find that the most effective social media for finding your ultimate job is the Facebook. And there is a lot of Israeli groups, but most of them are designed for Hebrew speakers. So if you feel confident with the level you speak Hebrew, so it can be definitely a big plus.
That's a great one. But I'm sure there are most definitely networking events in English 100% for many different organizations, But I really like that insight. So thank you, Eran. All right. And if you guys have questions about things from previous slides, like feel free to ask questions about previous slides as well. So organizing your research findings. All right. So in this piece, I'm going to break this down because there's quite a bit of context here. So basically, there are kind of two ways in doing research. One type of research, and there's going to actually three parts to organizing your research. One type of research is if you're looking for available job opportunities, like available open listings. The next one is going to be for networking. Let's say you're looking for organizations that you want to get in contact with, regardless if there are available positions. And then the third kind of research is just general research. You want to learn just more about your field as a whole. So I'm going to start with networking. And networking is always going to be an important piece of research, because if let's say you're looking for jobs, right? And while you're looking for jobs, you come across organizations that you would love to work with. But when you look on the listings, you don't see the type of position that you're looking for available. And then you might think, oh no, they don't have my position available. That means I have no shot at working at this company. I would argue that even if there's no position available at that organization, you still have the opportunity to create a connection with that organization. You still have the opportunity to create a job opportunity, and you have the opportunity to plant a seed. So even if you come across an organization that doesn't have an available position, don't rule it out. It doesn't mean that you can't contact them. As I have listed here, I have a document that I can send you on networking that can help you out with that. But as you're going through your networking, I'm going to move to the step where I say use an Excel sheet. I have a template that I can send as well, so feel free to ask me for that, and you can kind of shape it how you want. And so when you're researching networking, write down the company or the job which interests you. Write down the company name, the company website, the contact person's name and their contact info and position. And then an extra piece that I add in is a rating of how much you like the organization, 1 through 10. And so the reason I like rating the organization 1 through 10 is that if you're creating a giant spreadsheet with a bunch of different organizations that you want to network with, and you've created a rating for each of those organizations, then by the end of it, you can go back in and then you can decide how you want to use your time. Because if you're networking, and let's say you have a handful of 6s and 7s out of 10 in your interests, and maybe those 6s and 7s you can use to test things out. You can use them to test out your questions, to test out your emails. Or if you have your 9s and 10s, then maybe those are the organizations that you want to apply more of your focus on, that you want to spend more of your energy in following up, in crafting a proper message, and in just reaching out to in general. When it comes to job opportunities, I would do the same thing. Now, a lot of the time, when it comes to applying to jobs, a lot of people use I'll call it the machine gun method, which is basically like you're applying to as many jobs as you can, and you're kind of hoping that one lands, and you don't record anything. You almost sometimes don't even know where you've applied to. But what I would suggest is if you just take a few seconds to actually record the different companies that you're applying to. Let's use a data analyst. Let's use a data analyst example. Every time you apply to a data analyst role, just open up that Excel sheet and just drop in the company name and the company website. And what'll help there is at the bottom here, I've listed benefits of recording your findings. So if you've recorded, let's say 30 organizations that you would like to apply to that have available positions or don't have available positions, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to have a better feel for what the market wants and what the market has. At the end of it, let's say you find a great job, but at the end of that year, you leave that job for whatever reason. And now you're still looking for another data analyst position, but now you're going to have to do your research all over again. But if you just would have recorded your findings from the previous research, then you'd already have a set of 30 or 40 companies that you can hit the next time you're going to apply. So it's going to save you a lot of time. Also, let's say you have a friend that looks into a data analyst position and they say, do you have any companies you recommend? Boom, you can send them the list that you've compiled. And just in general, if you ever need to refer back to this list of places that you have applied to or that you have reached out to, maybe for a competitive analysis, or just in general, you just want to review something from that company, it's always going to be a good idea to record your research in just a clean, easy to read Excel sheet that just has this data there. Then you can always refer back to it for whatever you need. So I'm going to move on to this piece of it. Does anyone have any questions about organizing your data? Okay. So, and this one's real short. So just in general, this is just like for your career journey. As you go along your career journey, I would still recommend using an Excel sheet, or you can use Google Sheets. And if you come across any valuable websites, articles, videos, podcasts, throw them in there, because like imagine if you've now had this Google Excel sheet and you've used the same sheet for over 10 years, you're going to compile a really nice list of resources that you might be able to use, or maybe you don't want to use them, somebody else wants to use them, and then you can send them to somebody, else. So it can also be used as a space or as a place to save things that you might not have time to listen to watch, to review right now, but you throw them into this Excel sheet that you have, and then at a later date, you can come back and review them. So it's just like a clean, easy place. It's like a one-stop shop for all valuable resources that you find within your career journey. And that's pretty much it. That's how you organize your research findings and the data that you find. And it's a really simple thing that could be super valuable over time. And it's really super easy. You just kind of throw it into the Excel sheet and then you kind of forget about it. So anyone have questions or even maybe insights or tips that they've used during research or recording their research? All right. So this one right here is just job sites that I've listed for you guys. These are super common job sites that you guys can use for your actual research. Like I've mentioned to you, I have like a 3 or 4 page document that I can send you that has a much lengthier list of sites and resources that you can use. So if you want that list, please feel free to send me an email. These are like very common ones that you can use. I guess I'll just read them off. LinkedIn, Glassdoor, All Jobs in Shatil is Israeli sites. One thing I would advise is use your Aliyah advisor company. If you are in Israel and you're thinking about making Aliyah or you're just living in Israel, I believe each country, at least I know for South America, I believe for Russia and for the US, there is an Aliyah advising company that you can reach out to that helps you with anything related to your Aliyah, and they have a career department. And what you can use those companies for is you can literally have them look for work on your behalf. You just send them an email and say, hey, I'm looking for so-and-so type of position. I'm thinking of making Aliyah, or I'm just living in Israel. Can you help me out? And what they do is they actually will post your resume on various job boards on your behalf, and they'll even look into jobs on your behalf. Sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments here. Can you send me documents on that? Can you send me more website? Send document? Okay. And so that is one thing that I would highly recommend, is reaching out to your Aliyah advising company. For the US, I know it's Nefesh B'Nefesh. For example, the previous job that I had, I got it through networking and talking with different people. And then the current job that I have, which is not this job, it's another job. I'm a business analyst by day. And the way that I found that job is I actually, Nefesh B'Nefesh found it for me. I reached out to them and they had put out my resume on job boards that I had never even heard of. And when the company actually reached out to me, I actually wasn't aware that I had even applied to that company. And I know that companies will go on these job boards looking for resumes that have been posted on there. So definitely use your Aliyah advisor company. I have right under that Urban Recruits. So recruiting companies are another great thing to use. I know Urban Recruits is a great one for Israel, but if you're joining us from other countries, look into recruiting companies, because a lot of them will look for work on your behalf for free. So logically, why wouldn't you want a few different companies who are professionals in finding work looking on your behalf for work? And then they'll just reach back out to you saying, hey, I found this job, and this job for you. What do you think? And you'd be like, no, that one's not so good. Or yeah, that one sounds good. And so why not? It's like, use your resources. If the resources are free and they're looking on your behalf, why not use them? And then here I have some other ones like Indeed, which I think is a more global one, Olim in Tech, WhatsApp groups, like I've mentioned. Look into the different WhatsApp groups for the type of field that you're looking for. These are general Facebook groups. These are all listed in the larger document that I have for you guys. And of course, you'll have these in the presentation if you want the presentation afterwards. And so those are just Facebook groups. And like I said, the platforms that you guys use is half the battle in research. You guys can hack your research by knowing which platforms to use. If you're using poor platforms or low quality platforms, you're gonna get low quality results or spend more effort researching than you really need to. So make sure the first step of your research is researching which platforms you should be researching on, have that lined up, and then go to town on those platforms. Questions about sites to look into?
If I can add something.
Of course, Eran.
Two things. First of all, I know that Jerusalem and Tel Aviv have really useful young adult centers. Every city in Israel has a young adult center, but in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, I think it will be the most important thing for Olim Chadashim. This is one thing, and another thing.
Can you tell us a little more about like what a young adult center is? Because I'm actually not too familiar with what it is.
Okay, so in Israel, in most of the cities and maybe moshavim, kibbutzim, they have a young adult center which is designed for people aged 18 to 35. And they help you, for example, people who wish to go to the university or to college, they guide them how to apply, which scholarships they have. If they want to apply to certain jobs, they have, yes, I can see that Jonathan is mentioning another something that I wanted to add later, but I will relate now to this young adult center. So this young adult center, as I said, offers services to people who are citizens of a specific city, and they provide the services regarding employment, studies, scholarships.
And it's free. And you can just go to these young adult centers. You basically can, like, let's say I'm looking for a job in architecture. I can walk in and I can say, hey, you know what? Like, I'm new to Israel and I want to understand like what's the process of looking for jobs in architecture. Can you help me out? And they'll walk you through all of those steps and those processes.
Yes, they will help you for free if you are the citizen of this specific cities. But even if you're not, they can help you sometimes. It depends on the city. And sometimes they share also Facebook events, and they have workshops, a lot of events. It can be really useful.
Okay. And how would we search for it? Like if we wanted to find where one was, I mean, Jonathan posted one here, but if we wanted to find others, do we just type in young adult centers on Google, or how do we find them?
Yes, but it's better to be specific because there is a general website, but I am not sure how much it's useful. So if you want, for example, to find the Young Adult Center in Tel Aviv, so you can Google Young Adult Center in Tel Aviv, and they have also Facebook pages, and you can, some of them have a newsletter that you can subscribe and stuff like this.
Great.
And
great.
One other thing that I think will be relevant, and that's why I mentioned this, is a Facebook group which is called YPFP. And
YPFP?
YPFP.
YPFP, okay.
Yes. It's generally designed for people who are looking for works in careers in diplomatic fields and foreign affairs fields, but they have also a wide networking around Israel. So even if you are not looking for this specific kind of fields, it's a great platform to meet new people. They have events, not a lot, because it's something that they do for free, they volunteer. So they throw events maybe once or twice a year, but you can ask there even in English. And I think that maybe they can be useful.
Fantastic. Another really nice piece of insight. And does anyone have, and if you guys have questions for Eran or for any of this stuff, guys, please feel free to jump in. at any time. And so we're finishing up. We're finishing up here. So one thing I do want to note as kind of just a research overview, I have a couple things written here, is one is this is a system. This is a way to go about research. It's not the way to go about research. I'm not here preaching that like you must use this method, but if you don't really have a good method for research, then use this as a foundation and then customize a system that works best for you. Go about using the tips that you've heard here and then expand on those tips and see what works for you. See what flow works best for you. Maybe the time slots work in a certain way for you. Maybe certain questions that you want to ask yourself each time before you research works a little bit better for you. So try and find kind of what works for you. Maybe the Excel sheet that you have, you like organizing it in a certain way. So research is kind of like a flow. It's kind of like a space that you enter. And so as you can find your flow in research and you can find how you can make yourself more effective, that's going to be great. But this is a nice foundation to kind of branch that off of and form your own method. And the other piece I want to mention is, I'll read here and elaborate, the more you know about your field, the more aware you will become of the different kinds of opportunities that exist. So this insight will help widen your career options. And while this may be very obvious, I think something that is overlooked in research is that researching obviously will let you understand what are all the different types of opportunities of one or two types of roles. But if you're looking into a professional field, what research helps you do is it helps you see different paths that you may not have known were there. Analogy that I like to give is maybe right now, the way that you see your professional field is you're on level 4 of a building. But after you do some extensive research, then you will be on level 8 of that building. And if you're on level 8 of the building, now your view of your professional field widens. And when your view of your professional field widens, there are now other paths that you become aware of that you didn't know were there. So what research helps you do is it allows you to see options that you didn't know or you didn't realize were options that you had. You might think, oh, you know what, like I've done some research and here in Israel, I only see options maybe A and B. There's not a whole lot of information there. But as you do your research and you get yourself in the right platforms, you might start to see, oh, wait a minute, there are actually other options that are available to me. I just wasn't aware of them because I didn't do enough research or I didn't do the proper research. So research can really be it can be the key to helping you guys unlock career opportunities that you are not aware that exist, that you are not aware that are right in front of your face. So just be aware of that. And I believe that that's it. So I do have a survey that I want to send to you guys, which will be a 2-minute survey. And it helps us at Masa understand what it is that you guys want. Like the way that we customize workshops and content and all this other stuff is according to these surveys. So you tell us what you want, and then we tailor the content and workshops according to that. But before I send you guys the survey through this chat, and even if you've taken the survey, every time you answer it, it still helps us and it still gives us good insights. So keep doing that. So thank you. But does anyone have any questions that may not have been answered? Maybe we've covered content and you're still left with certain questions, and this is kind of your time to ask questions regarding research that maybe I haven't covered yet or we haven't covered yet. Okay, so, and of course, if you guys have more questions about research, you can always just send me an email. Here, guys, I just sent the survey in the chat. So if you could take a couple minutes to fill that out, it helps us out to make these workshops better and to design the content around what you guys are looking for. And that's it. If you filled out the survey, you've taken down my email, and you want some of the documents that I have, like this presentation, the job resources, the template, or even the networking document, reach out to me and let me know which ones you want, and I'll send them to you. Or if you want all, just say I would want all. We have a workshop on interviewing. We had it last week, but the internet crapped out, so we couldn't finish it. So that same workshop is going to be rescheduled for next week. And that's the Facebook page if you want to keep up to date. And hope this was helpful, guys. Hope this was valuable. And let me know if you have questions. All right. Eran, do you have any questions or anything? Otherwise, I'm going to end the meeting. Or if anyone else has any questions, last chance to speak. But otherwise, I'm going to end the meeting.
No, I am good. It's okay.
Okay, fantastic. Eran, thank you, man. I really appreciated your insights. They were great. I wrote them down. I'm definitely going to add them to the presentation.
You're welcome. If you have more questions, or if you want me to add some more information about what I said, so feel free.
Yeah, thank you. The networking events especially is a great one, and the young adult centers is another really good one. So thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Okay. See you later. Bye-bye, man. Good seeing you. Ciao.
Ciao.
Thanks, Yoel.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Nat. We'll be in touch. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.